Good evening, all. In this presentation, we will be learning the characters of subphylum Urochordata, its classification. Urochordata is included under phylum Chordata, and it is considered to be one of the primitive chordate group. And hence, earlier Urochordates were included under Protochordates. I suppose you remember what we have discussed in the previous session. What are the module? What are the subtopics included under this module? We have to study the classification till the classes, and if you're asked to write the classification of subphylum Urochordata, you need to like classify it till the classes. Okay, and then we need to learn the affinities of Urochordates with the other two subphyla under phylum Chordata. Then detailing the characteristics, features of the three different classes and an example each, and learning about Ascidia in detail as a type under Urochordata. And also very important and unique features shown by the this Urochordates, the retrogressive metamorphosis. It is a very unique feature which is very rarely seen in any other group of animal kingdom. So I have included the first part in this presentation, that is the features, important features of subphylum Urochordata, and the classification to the classes, the characteristics features of each classes, and one or two examples each. But the detailing on the what do you call the each example plus the type study will be done in the coming presentations. For the study, you can refer the two books given, three books given over here, along with the publication from Manjusha Publications by K.K. Vasquez, uh, dealing in detail. Now, subphylum Urochordata includes exclusively marine and cosmopolitan organisms. In the sense, they are exclusively marine. In the sense, they are only we can see only marine representatives in the Urochordates, and at the same time, it can be seen Urochordates are represented in all kinds of all seas and oceans throughout the globe. So, found in all the seas and also at all the depths. Uh, they are mostly sessile, or what we call as a sedentary, attached to somewhere or fixed somewhere. Mostly in the sense, Urochordates are grouped. The subphylum Urochordata is classified into three classes. Among that, class Ascidiacea, it is sessile, completely sessile forms or attached forms. While the other two classes, Larvacea and Thaliacea, we can see they are pelagic, or they are free swimming or floating forms. So, apart from Ascidiacea, you can see they are pelagic forms, but mostly they are sedentary and fixed or fixed, right? Then adult body is degenerate, sac-like, unsegmented, without any paired appendages, and usually without any tail. Why is it called as a degenerate body? Because in Urochordates, all the chordate characters, including notochord, the tubular nerve chord, um, then pharyngeal, obviously pharyngeal gizzard is found in adults as well. Postrenal tail, all these, that is notochord, nerve chord, postrenal tail, all these characters are found only in the larval stages, while an adult lack all these characters, and hence it is very difficult to study actually include the chordate, the Urochordate or the um, Urochordates in the phylum Chordata just by observing the characters shown by an adult. Okay, so that is why it is known as a degenerate, because they don't show any chordate characters. Okay, so adults are degenerate, but the larva is slightly more developed and it shows more amount of chordate characters. Now, the body is usually covered by a protective covering. It is known as a tunic or test. Why it is known as a tunic? Because it is composed of a chemical known as tunicin. Tunicin, which is very similar to cellulose. And hence, these Urochordates are commonly known as tunicates, or it is otherwise known as a tunicata. Urochordata, it is otherwise called as tunicata because of the presence of the protective covering tunic, which is flexible and it forms a covering over the body. Now, this the nature of tunic or the test varies from one class to another, right? Then you can see in the case of Urochordates, they have two apertures. Apertures in the sense openings. In higher chordates, there is opening like respiratory openings are there, digestive openings are there. But here, in the case of Urochordates, they have only two openings, and they are known as atrial aperture and branchial aperture. The atrial aperture and branchial aperture, the detail of which we will be studying when we study the type species. So usually these two apertures are present, and usually atrial aperture is present dorsal. So where the atrial aperture is present, that is the dorsal part of the body. Even though it is very difficult to distinguish between the dorsal, ventral, anterior and posterior, it is the presence of atrial aperture which actually helps us to locate the dorsal side of the body. Then notochord is present, as we have already seen. Notochord is present only in larval stages, and even in the larval stage, notochord is confined to the larval tail, and that is why it is known as Urochordata. Uro refer to the tail portion. So it is um, why the name has come Urochordata. That is yet another character of Urochordates. Um, then, when we look into the development of the Urochordates, development is always indirect. Indirect in the sense, it's not always. In most cases, it is indirect. That is, they do possess a larval stage in between. So the egg hatches out into larva. Larva very distinct from the adult. Larva metamorphose into adult. So development is indirect in most cases, and it includes a free-swimming tailed larva, which possess all the basic chordate characters. And another important unique feature is they exhibit retrogressive metamorphosis. So what is retrogressive metamorphosis? Metamorphosis means transformation of egg into adult through larva or even pupa. Okay, so egg, larva, adult. That kind of a transformation during the life cycle of an organism, it is known as a metamorphosis. Okay. Now, usually the metamorphosis is progressive type. That is, always the adult show more advanced characters than the larva. Larva usually possess less characters, less primitive characters or less advanced characters than the adult in most of the cases. Okay, throughout the animal kingdom, if we see in all the animals, we can see that the metamorphosis is progressive. And in Urochordates, what happens is it is retrogressive. As we have already seen, the larva possess more advanced characters of chordates. That is, it is the larva which possess all the chordate characters. But when it metamorphoses into adult, the adult lacks those advanced characters. So it actually, during the metamorphosis, what happens is more advanced, more chordate-like larva, it transforms into less chordate-like primitive adult. So that kind of a metamorphosis is known as retrogressive metamorphosis. So how this happens, we will be learning when we study the type species. Okay, it also exhibits alternation of generations and formation of colonies in some cases. It is not a very common or general feature, but it is seen in many cases. Okay, so these are the important characteristic features of subphylum. See the classification. So there have been classifications put forward by many scientists starting from like 1891, and here I'm just including a classification uh, which actually suits what is given in your syllabus. So don't go upon the scientists, it is just the classes which we are more concerned about. So subphylum Urochordata is classified into three classes: class Ascidiacea, class Thaliacea, and class Larvacea. Larvacea is also known as appendicular. So these are the three classes which are actually designated as the classes under subphylum Urochordata. So we'll be looking into the apertures, the presence of aperture and all. Now the class Ascidiacea, you can see what there is example. So this is Ascidia which we have already seen, and this is the real photograph. So you can see the branchial aperture and the atrial aperture over here. It is very clearly seen, and with a very thick protective covering, you can see that this this is the branchial aperture and this is the atrial aperture. And here you can see it is fixed onto the substratum, a rocky bottom surface of an ocean. Now next example is Herdmania. Again, Herdmania also, even though the atrial aperture and branchial aperture have been brought to a similar level on the surface. I hope you remember. I will just summarize the characters of Ascidiacea. They are solitary or colonial and bottom living, or they are almost sessile, usually sessile. The adults are usually sessile. Then the tunic or the test is it is permanent, well developed and thick. Um, while the atrium it opens out via atriopode or the atrial aperture, which opens on the dorsal side. Okay, and sexes are united. The larva it is free swimming and possesses all the caudate character. Apart from that, in the case of Ascidiacea, they have a very large pharynx inside with many persistent gill slits. So very like it usually it is a net-like or a mesh-like pharynx it do have. Okay, so that is these are the characters of class Ascidiacea. Now for the class Thaliacea, unlike Ascidiacea, the adults in under Thaliacea they are free living and they are pelagic. That is, they move about. They are not fixed. They are found in warm or temperate seas, and both solitary and colonial ones are found. Solitary in the sense in single, and colony means many individuals will be found together, and they form a common mass. Okay, when they are found in colony, when they are attached to form a colony, each individual is known as a zooid, right? So each individual will be showing all the urochordate character, adult urochordate character, and at the same time they will cooperate or have a cooperation with other members of the colony. So each member of the colony is known as a zooid. Now, in Thaliacea, the tunic is permanent, but unlike Ascidiacea, it is thin and transparent. With you can see very Thaliacea. This is the figure of Rodolulum, and you can see the muscular bands or the circular muscular bands present, and obviously the branchial and the atrial aperture it is found on the two opposite ends. The branchial aperture represents the anterior end, and the atrial aperture the posterior end. And why the name has come Doliolum, you can even suggest why it has the name has come. It is because of the shape of that organism. It is doll-like. Okay, that is why the name Doliolum. Right now, how the organism look like, you can see. So this is almost transparent, and you can see the muscular bands over here, and here the you can see the so you can see that the branchial region, the pharyngeal region or the branchial region, the muscular bands are there, and the dome-shaped body. Now the salpa, we have already seen the figure. In the case of salpa, the see almost they have this is the branchial one and this is the atrial aperture. So the last one is class Larvacea. It is otherwise known as appendicular. No, larvae, comparatively, they are small, like compared to Ascidiacea and Thaliacea, they are smaller, and they are usually solitary, unlike the colonial forms in the case of Ascidiacea and Thaliacea. They are larvae, they are always solitary. They are free swimming, pelagic, that is free floating, and the larvae they possess persistent tail, notochord, and all those body characters, and uh, they have a test which is actually tunic is a temporary covering, and this temporary covering, just like we have seen in an arthropod and all, this is shed off and new one is usually what you call produced periodically. So there is a temporary test in the case of Larvacea. It is different from what we saw in the case of Thaliacea and Ascidiacea, which had a permanent tunic. Now, the atrium and the atrial apertures both are absent in the case of Larvacea, and they have only two gill slits in the pharyngeal region, opening directly to the outside. Then the sexes are united, but there is no metamorphosis. Unlike the other two, they don't exhibit any metamorphosis. These are the unique features, identifying features of class Larvacea. And the example which you need to learn is Orthopura. I could the a very long. It is having a compact structure with a very long tail. Here, the figure in the figure there is only a part of the tail given. Actually, this tail it may extend even beyond. You may be able to see it in the actual figure. So here you can see it is only 0.2 mm. Ascidiacea. Thank you for your patient listening, and we will be continuing with the different classes, the examples under different classes, as well as the detailed study of the type species in the next presentation. So, hope you can make note on whatever we have discussed under this, and in the future, what will happen is like maybe one of you randomly may be picked up to submit an assignment on these topics which we have discussed. Uh, uh, we'll be discussing through these presentations. So be prepared for that, and you won't be getting much time for that because everything is being discussed, and you have the presentation and the points and the notes downloaded, and you will be able to listen to every time the same thing you can listen. So don't waste your time. Make notes on that so that it will be easy for you to submit the assignment without much of the